Hello, basketball fans. It's me, DC, here for Fantasy Basketball Analyzer to help you get ready for week 21 of the fantasy basketball season. Likely your fantasy basketball playoffs, unless you're in an unfortunate league that pushed it all the way off. So we're going to do a preview, doing pace, matchups, everything that we always do, unless you're new to the channel, in which case, welcome, hit subscribe. Let's get right into it. Here's our homegrown metric of pace and defensive efficiency put together to figure out the matchup. Once again, I pulled defensive efficiency from cleaning the glass that cut out the garbage time, so the numbers might differ a little bit, but I find them a little more reliable. The teams you most want to go after are the teams we would expect at this time of the year. Houston, Sacramento, Portland actually creeped up into there. Charlotte, then Brooklyn and San Antonio. Last week we had a big tie with a bunch of teams, so Indiana, Detroit, Orlando aren't quite in that group, although Indiana's edging up. I bet they're going to be in the top by the time we do this again next week. Down at the bottom, the teams you don't want to face: Boston, Miami, Cleveland, Dallas, Philly. It all makes sense. And then Golden State and Phoenix. Golden State's finally failed upwards out of that. They're still a strong defense, but they were kind of resting on the laurels of when they had Draymond and everyone at full strength. Hopefully Dre's back soon. Hopefully that helps improve not just the defense, but the offense, because I would like all the teams at full strength for the playoffs, because that will make better basketball. But we take these numbers and we go apply it to the week 21 schedule to take a look. So here's our strength of schedule. The first thing that should jump out isn't about matchups at all. It's that Miami only has 2 games. So in a weekly lock league, you totally have to stay away, especially if they rest some of their guys. Hopefully they won't if they only have 2 games. Otherwise, we've got 16 teams with 3 games. So most teams are only playing 3 games, and that leaves 13 teams with 4 games. So there's a handful of teams where you can get 4 games. That's still an advantage, especially in the playoffs. Try for that. Even in your daily change leagues, having players that have more games is beneficial. So think about that with the waiver wire and also just how you're going to balance this out. Hopefully by this point in the season, though, you know that, right? This shouldn't be breaking news, but it matters even more when it's win or go home situations. If you're purely looking for teams with favorable matchups, I like Atlanta's schedule and OKC's schedule. Both of them have 2 really good matchups. OKC's got a bad one against Miami and they'll be fully rested, so maybe it's not great. Whereas Atlanta stands out because they get Portland, Charlotte, Memphis, and the Pelicans. That's a pretty sweet week if you're really, this only comes up if you're splitting hairs and trying to say between these 2 guys, which matchup do I like? Which happens sometimes. Maybe you just need to win rebounds or something. You want the easier matchup, faster pace that gets you more numbers, or you're trying to play some DFS, and then these things kind of matter. Otherwise, be careful for next week. We got 3 teams with only 2 games. So just looking ahead here a little bit, the Clippers, Sacramento, and the Spurs. They all only have 2 games, and everyone is definitely in the playoffs, unless you've been eliminated, but your league is in the playoffs at that point. You got to be really careful because no matter when your playoffs started, having those 2 games would hurt. And it's 3 different teams, and that's going to be kind of a bummer. In fact, let's take a moment to take this down and show the remaining games here. So depending on when your league ends, this could be different. My leagues don't go all the way till week 24 because I don't want guys resting. Some leagues do default to that, especially if you have 2-week matchups. So it's going to depend. I show this to show you the total games remaining, right? The Clippers only have 12 games, so they're by far the lowest if your season goes the whole way. And then Philly, Portland, Washington, they have advantages because they still have 16 games, but that's going to differ if your season doesn't match. I have the link below. You can click it, check it out. It doesn't change. I keep updating it as we knock out some weeks. Back to focusing on week 21, let's go look at the back-to-backs. So with the back-to-backs, there's a couple of spots you can target, but you got to be strategic about it. So for instance, no one has a back-to-back on Monday, Tuesday at all. And then Thursday doesn't have a back-to-back going either direction. No one's got a Wednesday, Thursday back-to-back or a Thursday, Friday. So you kind of if you're trying to make a pickup and get 2 games for it, you might need to set your sights on getting 2 games in 3 nights as a bit more reasonable expectation. If you're looking specifically to do back-to-backs, Tuesday, Wednesday, Brooklyn or Phoenix, you can make a move there. And then Friday, Saturday, for those back-to-backs, you got Cleveland, Dallas, the Lakers, or Washington. Any of those spots would make sense. Otherwise, there's a ton of people that have back-to-backs coming in and going out of the week. You can see those little red marks. This is great. If you got some extra waiver moves, you can pick up someone on Sunday that has a back-to-back to roll you into Monday, especially in the playoffs. You want to be making as many moves as you can to get yourself at least 1 more game on your opponent, if not 2. This really makes a difference, and it could all come down to that. I lost a championship last year because if I had tied 4-4, I would have won it, but I couldn't get it one more 3-pointer on the last night. Devin Booker was the last guy going and he didn't make it. I can't hold a grudge against him. That's not fair. He does plenty, although it's fun to do that, but I can't publicly do that. It's not his fault. But if I could have had an extra game in there from anyone, it's possible to get a 3-pointer if it comes down to one. You don't want the playoffs to come down to that. So we want to make smart, targeted moves. Now, those best laid plans can be thrown off if someone's resting. So let's run through all of our trouble spots that we do every week. Connolly has a half of a back-to-back, meaning if I'm going to have a lot of people this week when I say half. If I say that, that means that either as the first or last leg in this week is a back-to-back. So if someone like Mike Connolly who regularly rests, you're going to want to track that. In this case, it's the Knicks at the end of the week, so you just have to stay on top of it for Sunday. Anyway, Horford, he has a half of a back-to-back. Embiid, who hasn't been resting for them, has 2 half of back-to-backs. They've got back-to-back on either side of the week. Jimmy and the Heat, nope, no back-to-backs there, so I'm not too worried about Butler or Lowry resting, at least not because of back-to-backs. Sometimes that can still happen. A little soreness flares up. They're looking at the postseason. They're not too worried about their seeding. Eric Gordon, half a back-to-back for Houston. Dinwiddie, yes, he does have a back-to-back, although I think Dallas might be handling it differently, so it might not be guaranteed that he's going to rest. Keep an eye out, but they do have a back-to-back. Golden State, Otto Porter, nope, no back-to-back, so hopefully the guys are playing there. Obviously, this could expand to be beyond Curry and stuff like that, because they rested a bunch of guys Monday of week 20. I think that was a little bit throwing elbows at the NBA that they were annoyed that they had to do 2 games at Denver and they weren't put together, but that aside, some guys can rest, but there's no back-to-backs for Golden State, so hopefully it's going to be okay. For the Bulls, no back-to-back. This is bringing up because Zach LaVine might be resting because of the knee thing. You look at him, Zach doesn't look the same. He still looks good, but he doesn't look the same as pre-injury Zach. That said, he just played on a back-to-back, so maybe this is much ado about nothing, but just be careful with it. This week, no back-to-back, so hopefully he doesn't miss any time. And then the Kyrie portion, not worry about back-to-backs, but as far as it is now, he can still only play on away games. That means he can play 1 of the 3 games for Brooklyn. And if this holds true through the rest of the year, I think it means he only has 3 more games that he can play. I might be wrong. Maybe it's 4, but I know it's not more than 5. So I think it's only 3 more games. Maybe it's 4 for the rest of the year. I'm questioning right now that last one because I think it depends on when your playoffs cut off. And with that, let's get to the best tool to help you win your week. Let's talk about streaming. This is going to be an interesting week because there are days heavily loaded. If you look down at the bottom, Monday's got 9, Wednesday's got 12, Friday's got 12, and Sunday's got 9. So maybe Monday, Sunday, you can work someone in there at 9, but it's more than half the league is playing the games. Wednesday, Friday, with 12 games each, you're probably not going to get to pick someone up and stream them unless you're working with an injury, because in all likelihood, your best players are all going to have a game. That's, most of the league is playing. There's only 6 teams that are off or something? Check my math. Yeah, that sounds right. Anyway, so the days we want to go after are Tuesday when there's only 4 games, Thursday there's only 1 game, and Saturday there's only 4 games. I don't have the calendar right in front of me, but I'm guessing that the St. Patrick's Day games are what's throwing that off. It's really rare for us to only have 1 game, especially it's Orlando, Detroit. What? Anyway, that's what we got here. So that's kind of the backbone of it. Orlando and Detroit are great pickups because on that day, you're going to have tons of empty spots on your roster. So not only do those help you gain stats on a day when no one else is playing, you also protect yourself a little bit from your opponents using players against you. So really take a look if there are worthwhile guys from Detroit or Orlando. I want to build around that. And that brings us to our streaming team of the week. My number 1 team for streaming is Detroit. They only have 3 games, and I usually prefer it to be a 4-game team. But all 3 of their games are on these low volume streaming days, and they're extremely low volume. 4, 1, and 4 are very low volume. Lots of times we're happy when there's a 7-day game. So you'll definitely get to pick any of those players in there, and hopefully they just don't kill your percentages, but any counting stats they get or points in a points league is just bonus. The runner-up team is Orlando, not just because they play on that Thursday, which is the key day, which is true. They're also the only other team that has 2 streaming days. Everyone else just has 1. You can look at Brooklyn. You can look at Charlotte. Any of these teams I've got highlighted here in yellow on the grid, they only have 1 good streaming day. And that's fine. You could target them. But the odds are you probably have to make your moves with a first half of the week in mind, second half of the week in mind type of thing. And with the 12-day games here for Wednesday and Friday, it gets a little hard to do because, like I said, you're probably not going to get to work those guys in. So there are some options, but they're not all gimmies. I would look right now for Detroit and Orlando players. Start thinking about who's on your waiver wire. We will talk about it more when we do the waiver wire show this weekend. Probably be coming out on Sunday. If you have any questions ahead of that, feel free to hit me up in the comments or hit me up on Twitter at @BBallAnalyzer. Always happy to answer the questions whenever I can. Beyond that, thank you for watching. I hope week 20 is going well, especially if you're in the playoffs. Be on top of it. Have fun. If things are going well, you can only do so much. You put in the effort and then try and be a little zen about this. This is supposed to be fun. The measure of a good fantasy player is making the playoffs. That's really what you can control through grind and focus. In the playoffs, it's going to be kind of random. And, we just kind of roll with it. Hopefully you can, do a little trash talk, throw some elbows at your friends and have some fun with it. Otherwise, I want you to go out there, and whether it's on the fantasy basketball court or in your regular life, go win your week. Thank you so much for watching. If you've made it this far, please hit the like button and leave a comment down below. It helps me grow the channel. If you want more videos like this, hit subscribe or even the little bell will give you alerts. And I'll be back soon with another video for you.